Good evening and welcome to the June Volunteer Forum. That's right, June. Thank you to everyone that picked up the error that I put in the chat this evening saying it was the July Forum. It is in fact the June Volunteer Forum. We're broadcasting live tonight from the State Control Centre here, and we're going to hear a lot more about the State Control Centre, what it does and the great team of people that makes it up. Firstly and foremostly, I want to acknowledge the Aboriginal lands to which we're all joining tonight and pay my respects to Aboriginal elders past and present and recognise and strengthen resilience of Aboriginal people in this land. A jam-packed agenda here tonight, but as always, tell us where you're joining in from and more importantly for many across the state, how much rain you've had. It's been pretty soggy out there. I know we're going to hear a little bit more about what that means for some of our communities. We've got some people joining in already from Bataguiney, Hamilton, Wallet, Axe Creek, Gazette, even one from Hotham, and I'm pretty sure it's holed up in Hotham. Joined this evening by an esteemed panel of guests. I'd like to introduce Deputy Commissioner Chris Stevenson from Emergency Management Victoria. Good evening, Chris. Welcome.
Good evening, and good evening to everyone online.
Excellent. The one and only Deputy Commissioner David Bruce from Fire Rescue Victoria. Welcome, David. Thank you for coming along this evening.
Thanks for having us, and welcome everyone.
Excellent. And one could even say the rose between two thorns. The lovely Dawn Hartog, board member extraordinaire of the CFA and captain of Talangi. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you very much, Chief, and thank you, and welcome everybody this evening.
We'll have a little bit more to hear from you a little bit later on. Some good stuff, and of course, last but not least, Chris Hardman, Chief Fire Officer from Forest Fire Management Victoria. Good evening, Chris. Welcome to the panel.
Good evening. So great to catch up with so many people right across the state and beyond. Thank you.
Not a problem. And a lot of you are probably sitting there thinking, who's this bloke in a jumper and not in uniform? Yes, I am coming to you tonight as the acting CEO, and that's because our acting Chief Officer, Gary Cook, is doing a vitally important job. We thought he did such a great job at Springhurst with the roving reporting mic. He's on assignment again tonight, and we'll hear from and see from Gary a little bit later on to see what he's got to say and what he's up to. So it's a jam-packed agenda, so let's see what's on and coming up tonight. Well, fantastic. A jam-packed agenda, and one of you would have, some of you might have picked up on, we're actually going to try something very new on the Volunteer Forum this month, and that's a live cross to our people in Canada. And we've got Nicki Lund, who's staying up. In fact, I probably even got up early. I think it's 4 a.m. In Canada as we speak. And so we're going to try later on in the forum to live cross to her to hear her experiences and what the CFA team and other Australians have been up to in Canada. But more importantly and firstly, Dawn, we've got some post-nominals to your name now.
We do.
Australian Fire Service Medal recipient. Congratulations. It's fantastic to see. Two members from CFA recognised in the King's Birthday Honours and Awards, and yourself and Paul Denman. Paul's been a great, dedicated member to the CFA. I think a board member too for the CFA from the Buxton Brigade, and obviously yourself at Talangi. Yep. Tell me, Dawn, what does it mean?
How does it feel? That's it's a great question, and one that I think I'm still letting sink in. It's pretty humbling, I've got to say. It's an absolute honour, and it's something that I'm incredibly proud of to have been nominated when there's so many incredible people out there doing some pretty amazing things. To be somebody who has been awarded, or actually had somebody kind of think that they'd like to actually put a nomination in and have that recognised is pretty incredible.
Absolutely. Well, you're well deserved, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Australian Fire Service Medal and what it means, because you have another job within CFA with all the many hats that you wear, and that actually is the chair of our Honours and Awards Committee.
Yes.
So we'll discuss a little bit more about the Honours and Awards Committee and what it means, and why it's so important that we take time to stop and recognise the great achievements of our members. Chris, thank you very much for allowing us to come in and invade the State Control Centre this evening. I see we're in the middle of the Operations Centre here. Tell us a little bit about the State Control Centre and I guess your role in Emergency Management Victoria.
Thanks, Jason, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you all having a look at our primary control centre here in Victoria. It is actually a centre that it's actually written in legislation that this centre is here, Jason, and has to function for all Victorians. So it's not just about our traditional emergencies such as bushfire and flood, but it actually activates right across a whole range of emergencies. And people would have seen, During COVID, we were activated here to support all of our agencies out there in the field. And I suppose that's one of the key points I want to make. It is actually about supporting what you do out there every day. It really comes into play, Jason, when, as you know, as a state response controller here, when we have a major emergency in Victoria, and that means that, you know, all of our agencies need to start working together. We can't do it alone, so this building here becomes really integral in supporting all of our people out there.
And it is about working as one. That's the mantra. And I guess one of the unique things about the panel we have this evening is, in fact, you've got yourself, Dave, myself, and Chris are all state response controllers under the Act and authorised by the EMC to perform that function. So, from your perspective, Dave, you know, as a state response controller, how important is it to have a facility like this to be able to run operations from?
It's certainly a major factor in what we do as a state. The way that we can all connect together, the various functions of the State Control Centre, in some regards we take our agency uniform off when we come to the State Control Centre and work under the EMV umbrella, but also we do work as one. So it's really important, and I've seen the state grow over the many years that I've been playing in the space. So it's a real feather in the cap to Victoria for what we do, and we continue to learn. It's continuous improvement. It's a really important factor here. Yeah.
And I guess the centre that we're in has had a bit of a history, Chris, considering that prior to the 09 fires, this used to be the operations centre for Forest Fire Management Victoria, or I'm going to say DELP, I think, back in the day, or NRE, or I'm sure one of those. Tell us about, I guess, from your perspective, the genesis of the State Control Centre and your view as to why it's important that we do come together in a centre like this at times of crisis, particularly those major emergencies, and work as one.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. It really was looking after bushfire protection on public land, and that's what it was established to do. And very quickly, particularly with CFA, there was a very strong link and connection with CFA, and particularly when it was dealing with many fast-running grass fires, they also utilised this centre, and there was a natural evolution of this centre to be a multi-agency hazard management facility, and that's what it is today. You know, EMV look after this centre for all of us, and they bring some fantastic resources and staff to make it function, but it was really run previously agencies surge personnel, so we would all contribute, and we still do, to people to support the State Control Centre, but we do now have a core capability provided by EMV, and then we as agencies top that up with the model. But all hazards, all emergencies, and in my experience, whether it's been the pandemic, health, bushfires, grass fires, floods, storms, it works, and we can make it work. And as Dave Bruce said, we do take off our uniforms, and I think it works really, really well.
As Angus has put out there, yes, the old ECC.
Yep.
So Chris, we heard Chris touch on a couple of things there. It is more than just fires or floods or storms. It really is a control centre for multiple classes of emergency. Tell us about, I guess, some of the roles and functions that we have in terms of those other Class 1, Class 2 emergencies and what that might mean.
Yeah, and we're going to have a look around the centre, which will be great for people. But, you know, in the centre itself, there's a whole lot of functions, and there's things now, as Chris mentioned, we now have a 24/7 capability in the State Control Centre for the last few years, which is really, really important. So, for example, you know, if a warning needs to be put out at night, we can do that. We can provide intelligence to people overnight. There's a whole lot of other functions, and we will walk around and have a look at it. But I think when we have a look at the centre, you'll see a whole lot of desks and a whole lot of computers around. And that's actually representative of the amount of agencies that we have in here. We'll have transport in here on a big day, Jason. We'll have Ambulance Victoria. We'll have health. We'll have, wildlife represented from DELP or energy. So we actually bring everyone in here so that if a decision needs to be made or we need some intelligence from other agencies, they're here. So, we provide good information, hopefully back out to those at the coalface.
So first question this evening from Jacob, and it's to you, Chris. So he asks, how quick does it take to activate the State Control Centre once an emergency unfolds?
So the good news is we're activated 24/7 all the time now, Jacob. And that's, as I said, that's happened over the last couple of years. But we do escalate. So if we predict there are events coming or we're having hot days on the horizon, we'll lift what we call the tier levels at the State Control Centre. So we're always monitoring, we're always activated. But for example, the floods last year, when we saw the rain was coming, we lifted our activation level and we have more staff on deck here. And that might be our staff, or simply it could be some surge staff coming in from the SES to support as well.
That's right, and certainly that contribution or co-contribution like from the agencies, and because this is the control centre for all the agencies. And one of the other things that we've got on, certainly myself, Dave, Chris, we're on a rotating roster of state response controllers, so there's always a state response controller on roster available 24 hours a day. In fact, Gary Cook as well is a state response controller. There's always those team of people available, ready to activate. And as you say, when the conditions are, indicate, so whether it be elevating fire dangers, elevating floods, and other emergency triggers, we bring more people into the centre.
Absolutely, Jason. A good example would be the earthquake that we had here in Victoria a couple of weeks ago, where we had a base level of staffing here in the SCC, and within about 15 minutes, 30 minutes, we had the SES were activated, they were in here. So we were able to provide a whole lot of information out to the community very, very quickly.
And and I guess that's one of the real advantages of having the SCC in its current format, and particularly, as you said, that 24-hour ability to issue a public warning and information real time and rapidly. And I know from an agency's perspective, we all have our statutory responsibilities to do that. And in fact, our agency personnel can do that. But if we ever find ourselves in a situation where they find that it's difficult to do, or there's a million things happening in the DCC or otherwise, they can just simply pick up the phone and say, hey, I need an emergency alert or an EA or a watch and act issued straight away. And it's certainly a fantastic ability to have that in the centre.
Oh, absolutely. Ring our friendly support people at the front desk here overnight, and they'll put you on to our information and warnings. And we'll have something out as quick as we can.
Excellent. And a big shout out to the EMV team here in the SCC, who I think they're scared that we're going to do the audience question thing here tonight because they've all scurried off. But certainly the team are here tonight, and big thank you on allowing us to come in to your workplace this evening to be able to share with our members and anyone that's watching this fantastic facility and what it does. And thanks for filling us in there, Chris. And we'll hear a little bit more about some of the other stuff the SCC and EMV does with the agencies collectively. Chris Hardman, Esquire. So Chief Fire Officer for Forest Fire Management Victoria. Tell us more about Forest Fire Management of Victoria, who you are, what you do.
Okay, look, thanks. I'm really pleased to be with you tonight. But for those of you that have been around a long time, and we have a bit of fun with the Department of changing names, just a reminder, we started off as the Forest Commission, the Conservation, Forests and Lands, Department of Sustainability and Environment, Department of Environment and Primary Industries, Department of Natural Resources and Environment, Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, and now DECA. Thank God for Forest Fire Management Victoria as a brand, and I know a lot of people have a lot of fun with us with that changing names, and and all of you have got your own special acronyms. So when it was DSE, it was Department of Sparks and Embers. So I just want to start with a bit of fun and recognition. But so Forest Fire Management Victoria, we're simply one of the three fire agencies. We have statutory accountability for the fire protected area. The fire protected area is 8 million hectares of forested land, parks, forests in Victoria. It equates to about 30% of the total land area of the state. And our accountability is to manage bushfires on public land, but also to mitigate bushfire risk through our extensive planned burning program and hazard reduction programs, strategic breaks, and doing all of that work. So, and really we do that in partnership with CFA. Just the incredible support that we get from brigades all over the state with their relationships they've got with us in FFMVic, in the support they provide, helping us with our work on a daily basis. But I might just say that those of us that have been around for some time, we may go back and we may remember when the relationship between the various departments and CFA brigades wasn't that great. And there was always a bit of tension around, and I think it's important to recognise our history. But, you know, I've been in this job for 5 years, and since 2009, I have seen that, you know, the way we collaborate, the way we work together, the way we do things together has changed dramatically for the better, over and over and over again. And I thought I would just touch on a good example of where I've never seen it work any better, and that was in the 2019 and 20 bushfire season. There is only one agency in Victoria that can put 5,000 people in front of a major fire, develop a township protection plan and protect thousands of houses over a 3-day period. Nobody else can do that, just the CFA. And I never forget in the 2019-20 bushfire season, as those fires, we've got to remember we had 4 of the worst spike days in that bushfire season that Victoria has seen since 1972. And many of you were standing in front of those columns of fires that were bearing down. They're protecting communities. And the work that I saw there, I will always be grateful for what the CFA can do. And what I was really proud of, and what I particularly really enjoyed, is the fact that when those fires got very, very scary in the bush, we could do no more in the forest. So we fell back, we came out of the forest, and we stood alongside the CFA, and we stood alongside the CFA, and we worked with you and for you, delivering that township protection and bringing our skills to the table. So for me, the partnership is better than it's ever been, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it ends in the future.
Thanks for that intro, Chris. And certainly, as I said, our agencies have to work together, and we'll touch on a little bit more about Forest Fire Management Victoria and some of those interactions. Chris, you're a popular man tonight, I've got to say, because there's a few questions in here, and Thomas has asked, how are JSOPs developed and reviewed across all the agencies?
Yeah, good question. They basically, JSOPs are a combination of all of our agencies. So they're not developed just by EMV in isolation. They're actually developed by coordination groups that we establish. So we use representation across all of the agencies when we develop those JSOPs. They're reviewed regularly. We do have dedicated people to work on our JSOPs and all of our doctrine. So we coordinate that on behalf of the state. So once we get a JSOP or we have a JSOP in review, our teams will work on those. I'll tend to take those JSOPs to a group of our deputies to make sure that they're okay with them. And then we take that to a team which you're involved in, Jason, obviously, it's the state control team. And then the state control team will ultimately sign off on those JSOPs. One of the things I'll say about JSOPs, Jason, this really played out in 2019, 2020. When we went to the Royal Commission, to have common doctrine between the agencies, that it didn't matter what event that we had, whether it was a flood or a fire, you know, if we had to do road closures, we had standard procedures. So I think they're a hugely important element of our business these days.
Absolutely, and because it is that, you know, having that interoperability is vitally important. And I know, Dave, from a FRV CFA perspective, we've got a committee called FSOC, the Fire Services Operations Committee, which comprises of 4 Deputy Commissioners, 4 Deputy Chiefs from CFA, and there's a subcommittee to that principally also looks at interoperability, ensuring that we do have that interoperability even below the JSOP level. And from your experience, your 38 years on the game, how important is that?
Oh, look at and being part of FSOC and reporting through to the heads of agencies, it is really important to get buy-in from the agencies and to have some consistency and understanding. There is nothing worse being in the front line and not understanding what our partners are up to. So to have a consistent view, whether it be between agencies or more wholesomely around the sector, is really, really important.
Absolutely. So Chris, coming back to yourself, obviously Forest Fire Management Victoria, so you're responsible for prevention and suppression in public lands.
Yep.
We had a question here earlier around the interplay between agency jurisdiction, and the question specifically was around Fire Rescue Victoria Fire District and the interplay across that. And of course the CFA Act is very clear in respect to the country area of Victoria excludes those public lands or managed lands or prescribed lands. Can you talk us through, I guess, between yourself and Fire Rescue Victoria, how are we managing looking after the public land in the fire district?
It's a really terrific question, so thank you for that. We have a MOU between FFMVic and Fire Rescue Victoria, and it outlines our accountabilities that we take when it comes to bushfire risk reduction or undertaking planned burning or any other work. It's a very simple agreement, and it tries to reflect the way we work with CFA, in as much as Jason can and has the authority to exercise my powers on public land, and I can do the same on country area of Victoria. And with the agreement we have with FRV, it really it enables me to conduct planned burning in the fire district. If a planned burn escapes, I can, without seeking endorsement from FRV, go and suppress that burn escape. And similarly, if our people come across a grass fire or a bushfire in the fire district and it's within 1.5 kilometres of public land, then of course we can suppress that fire. And the other thing that really makes it work very well is we have this ability to contact FRV or FRV to us and get that endorsement for us to do whatever is reasonably needs to be done to protect community values, critical infrastructure in the district. So we have a good, strong agreement. We've tested it a few times. It works really well, and we will constantly review and update those agreements as we need to.
Thanks, Chris. So as people know on the panel, I like to talk about the hard issues. So I'm going to drop one on the table. Hazard reduction planned burning in an effort to protect communities. Chris, I know it's very important. It's what you do, but I'm going to actually ask Dawn, as a CFA captain, working with Forest Fire Management Victoria and Fire Rescue Victoria. Why is it important that I guess we do those activities, and what are some of the added benefits for not only the community but also for your members?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and something that I know definitely from my brigade that we've taken part in and we've been really happy to. As Chris mentioned before, we're really lucky. We've got a great relationship and have for a very long time with our local FFMVic crews or DECA crews, and I think it's such a value to our brigades and to our members as well as across FFMVic for that sharing of skills, condensing of skills, and the way that we look at fire and how we attack fire for different purposes. So as a brigade, normally we're getting turned out to put something out, where when we're out doing hazard reduction alongside our FFMVic crews, the resistance to put the fire out because we need it and we need it to do what it does, is a really big, it's a really big, a great learning curve. but absolutely for our, not only for our communities and, their houses and livelihoods and businesses and the like, but actually for the native, forests and
ecological values,
absolutely.
yeah.
And in Talangi, there's, almost no more perfect, beautiful spot in Victoria, slightly biased, to really have those values merge.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's otherwise known as the plug. But certainly, when I travel the state, particularly around the more western districts, particularly 4 and 5, there's a lot of discussion around roadside burning and the value of roadside burning, not only from, as I said, from that protection perspective, but also the training aspect.
Yeah.
Getting to know fire, working with fire, and dealing with it. And certainly from your perspective, Dawn, I'm hearing that it does have those advantages, and it's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done. So Chris, tell me a little bit more, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to, go on the sell a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know Forest Fire Management Victoria has project firefighters for the summer period. So
We do.
for any member out there, particularly CFA member, that might be a bit fit, potentially on the young side, I'm sure, and feeling like a bit of a challenge, tell us how we might be able to get involved in that project firefighting roles.
Well, I'll leave my number. Give me a call and I'll know. Look, honestly, so many of my staff are CFA volunteers. It is just, you cannot separate them, and many of my staff, like Dawn used to work for me and years ago, and she was passionate about the CFA, and so many of my staff do that. We're really, we hire about 300 on an annual basis. We have 300 that we try and keep, so there is an opportunity for people right across Victoria in lots of regional communities. We were in 120 locations across the state. So I would say, and whether you've got to be a reasonable fitness, but there's many, not me, but many people slightly older in age that we would welcome to apply for project firefighter roles, seasonal roles. We have, we hire people for 1 year, 2 year and 3 year contracts. And there is so much we have in common. You will not find it a foreign or a difficult place to work. And I would just encourage all of you to have a look at it. Look on the DECA website and have a look for project firefighters. And if you're interested, have a red.go. We'd love to see you there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. And certainly if you are interested, please go to the DECA website where all the information about project firefighters are there for you to have a look at. As many people would know, we've been working very hard to let our members know and inform our members what appliances we have and some of the more and newer technologies we have available to our members. And some might even remember a while ago we did QR codes, which were like an introductory type induction to particular types of vehicles. Well, the fleet team have gone one step further and have started doing 3D interactive tours of our appliances and made them available on the CFA website for members to be able to go and have a look at and get a familiarisation of the appliances and the particular stowage. As you can see on the screen there now, here's some examples of what those 3D tours might particularly look like, and there's 6 vehicle types available to go through. And we might click on the Euro 6 heavy vehicle, heavy tanker, and have a quick look at. I think it's fantastic. You're able to at your own leisure, go around the truck, have a look, open the lockers virtually, be able to click on various aspects of the truck and understand what that piece of equipment is, what it's used for, and how it comes together. So a big shout out and thank you very much to the fleet team that are making this happen with our comms and engagement team, because I really do think it's an important tool. And certainly for brigades that may be receiving new appliances into the future, you're able to get a sneak peek of what the appliance might be looking like, its standard stowage, and starting to get a look and feel for what it might be in the field. So Dawn, from again putting your volunteer hat on, what do you think about having a tool like that and the ability to be able to see our appliances, particularly the new appliances and the technology that the fleet team are putting out at the moment?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's very much twofold. So one, it's just a great opportunity to show, everybody what our tools of trade are, how we use them, what we have available. But more so, if you're going across the state, we know that there's quite a variety of trucks, and depending on what type of exposure you have to turnouts, we're not always familiar with every, each brigade's different types of vehicles. So to be able to actually go through that and get our own familiarity is great.
Fantastic. And look, I've got to say a big shout out to the Bayswater Brigade, because I know you guys did it first for your BA van. So thanks for the idea. And certainly we've been able to roll that out. And if you are interested, we'll put the link to the members online site in the chat if you're keen to go and have a look at that fantastic 3D tours. And as we continue to update the appliances, we'll be putting more and more up there for people to see. Well, I have promised, and yet again, DCO Rowan Luke has delivered. Every month we provide a training update, keeping our members informed about what's happening in training and some of the key achievements of the training department over the last month. So over to you, Rowan.
Thanks for the introduction. I'm joining you today from our fire investigation training facility at FFMVic Huntly, where we're conducting a series of burns for an upcoming structural fire investigation program. CFA proudly provides training to our members through 15 national units of competency that are aligned to the Advanced Diploma of Public Safety Fire Investigation. The units include Intro to Fire Investigation, Structural, Vehicle and Bushfire components, as well as the legal aspects required for investigators. It's a huge advantage that our investigators can reach the Advanced Diploma and are truly recognised for their experience and qualifications. The Huntly Fire Investigation Facility is the only one of its kind in Australia, and its design limits the amount of carbon and fire products emitted to the atmosphere, and also has a level of technological advances that allows the users to scientifically monitor the temperatures in the fire scene, as well as record the images during the burns. This allows students to better understand the fire dynamics as well as the fire behaviour. Today is about the preparation of the practical component for the assessment, and the students in coming days will have conducted a formal investigation to find the cause and the point of origin to each of the 4 separate fires. These real-life scenarios and the finalisation of the investigation make the course so valuable to our students. At the end, they'll review the footage, confirming their investigation knowledge and skills. CFA has a statutory requirement to identify the cause and origin of fires within the country area of Victoria, and is continuing to build our capacity and capability. If you are interested in becoming a fire investigator and have already obtained the prerequisites of maintain safety on the fireground, protect and preserve scene, and suppress and respond units for either urban or wildfire, I'd encourage you to initially reach out to your district or email CFA Fire Investigation at fireinvestigation@cfa.vic.gov.au. Lastly, for a training update, we'll soon see the release of a number of packages that are going through final consultation: crew leader, strike team leader, drive off-road and supervised machinery. We're also working on further courses and RPLs for a range of courses that are critical prerequisites. The first pilot of the Respond to Urban has been run in the southeast, and we're starting to receive feedback to continue to refine the program. 4 other regions are continuing to program their pilot courses, which will then allow regions to continue to schedule more Respond to Urban courses into the future. In addition, we have been working with New South Wales Rural Fire Service to conduct a course in their facility in Dubbo for Sector Commander, Divisional Commander and Ops 2, where we intend to send up to 20 students to complete the course, which will give us an opportunity to view and trial the program. I'm sure you'll appreciate the effort that goes into making fire investigation training the highest professional level fire investigation training going around. Back to you, Chief.
the conversations over many years with firefighters, they want to see the real thing so they can feel it, live it, and to have a facility like that is extremely important.
And it's about training in a safe environment, because training is about not only practicing your skills, honing your skills, but it's also about making mistakes in an environment that is safe and where you can learn from that and continue to grow and develop. And I know both CFA and FRV have invested millions of dollars in making sure that our training campuses are state of the art and world leading, particularly not only in the occupational health and safety space, but also in the water treatment and environmental compliance as well.
Yeah, and fire investigation has always ticked an interest to a lot of firefighters. They like to know the origins, and to have a facility and to have a learning environment, as you say, that is safe is really, really important to not only to our agencies but others who get involved.
And I think one of the good things about the VEMTech facilities is, yet again, we've been talking about working as one. It really doesn't matter the badge on the side of the shirt. When you walk into those training facilities, and I know for the fire investigation course, Nicole Harvey and the team are really starting to work, reach out to fire agencies to bring everyone together and to be able to share and build our capacity and capability in fire investigation. Because as you said, it's an important it is an important aspect, but it also leads to other things within community, like product recalls.
Yes, exactly. And we want to know the origins. It's all about potentially prevention. So it's very important to understand, and then by investigation, we can actually inform the community as to what's safe, what's not, and it is a really important aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. One question there, again from Jacob, in regards to fire investigation, how does the request work? Does it matter whether FRV or CFA does the investigation? Look, it really doesn't. We've both got investigators. Depends upon availability of investigators, where in the state it occurs. I know we've got many CFA volunteer fire investigators right across Victoria that are out there doing investigations on a daily basis and working side by side with FRV fire investigators as well. And if we do get a situation where there isn't a CFA person available, we pick up the phone and we ring our friends at FRV, and they're more than happy to come out and support us in that fire investigation process. So if you do want more information about fire investigation, becoming a fire investigator, as Rowan said, he gave the email there, or talk to your local district office. Back to you, Dawn. So we spoke briefly about receiving your Australian Fire Service Medal. It is an honour, and I know you're well deserving. I know you probably very humble, I know, and you would probably disagree with me, but you are, not only from your leadership roles within CFA, board member, brigade captain, you're a strong advocate for women in CFA, strong advocate.
Yes.
And
unapologetic.
Unapologetic, and rightfully so. And I think it's fantastic that you are recognised for that. As chair of the Honours and Awards Committee, how important is it that we recognise our members and the great work that they do?
Oh, it's incredibly important, and I can't spruik this enough, or I can't request the members out there enough to submit, applications, to put in nominations. And I know we get, quite often when we go around to ceremonies, you get that's not why we do it. We don't do it for the recognition, we don't do it for the medal, and we know that. We know that you do it from the depth of your soul or your heart, that you want to help your communities. But our members are out there doing amazing things every single day and night at the expense of family and friends and special occasions. And to be able to recognise, I think, is that extra level for what you're already doing and volunteering naturally, to be able to, to really highlight, I think, the great work that's happening out there.
And I know, as a committee member as well, we often during the committee talk about wanting more nominations, wanting more diversity of nominations. Yeah. Because our people are humble.
Very humble.
And they pretty well go and do what they do for the want of nothing. And they do some fantastic work day in, day out, and we strongly encourage anyone to nominate a fellow CFA member, a brigade, whether it be a unit citation, AFSM, we're keen to get those nominations so that we can recognise the great work that our people do out in the community.
Absolutely.
And I guess, and more importantly, we've introduced a new award recently, which is also the Citizens Commendation, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's incredibly moving when and we've presented two, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, just the pride that not only the citizens who are being recognised, but their family members, is just incredible to see, that there are people out there just with incredible acts of bravery and helping their fellow Victorians as well. So we're really happy to see that. And sometimes it might seem quite daunting, but we've got supports and we've got people who are able to assist and help and point in the right direction with the process.
Awesome. So moving on to other things, Dawn, and some of your other hats. We had a question earlier on around incident management team roles.
Yes.
So you participate quite regularly on incident management teams,
Yep.
but for a CFA member out there that's wanting to become part of an IMT and start building that capability and capacity into incident management team roles, tell us, I guess, your journey and how someone expresses interest in some of the training and development that needs to happen.
Yeah, sure. So I started very early, and it was actually through my role when I worked in CFA. I came in as in community education, community engagement, and it was just a natural kind of a natural conclusion that I would work in the public information section, which wasn't known as public information at the time. And so, within my first year of actually working for CFA, found myself in a bit of a communications warnings role when we used to have to actually write our own code to put a message out. And now the systems that we see now is just incredible how far it's come. But it's something that if you're interested and there's a whole range of skill sets that you can use, whether it's logistics or public information or incident management, to actually go and talk to somebody in a brigade or talk to somebody at a district to find out how to be involved. There's robust training that is provided. There's a pathway for progression. So now I'm a level 3 accredited public information officer, both here in the State Control Centre, but also in incident control centres around the state. And you get just as much satisfaction from one of those roles as you do, when you put the boots on and hop on the ground, I think, as well.
Absolutely. So if anyone is interested in having a journey through an IMT role and progressing from fireground into the incident management team, and you want more information, there is information available on Members Online. Otherwise, you can email training@cfa.vic.gov.au. I've still got a bit to get through, Dawn, but I do have one question that I'm sure many people are dying to ask and maybe a little bit nervous. Putting your board member hat on now, what are, I guess, some of your personal reflections and observations of CFA, where we are and where you see CFA into the future? Yeah,
look, I am really optimistic and positive about where we are and where I see us going. Life is very busy and if I didn't see it, I wouldn't be as active and as passionate about it. And I think we've seen a lot of change and we acknowledge that. But where we're coming both, as an authority and how we're supporting our members and our staff around the state, and also where we're going, where we see a lot of our strengths through our advertising, through initiatives that we've got, through picking up on some of the diverse opportunities, as well as our feeds into that legislation and our advocacy in a different legislation, whether it's OH&S, whether it's diversity, like I said before. I think we just have so many positive opportunities at the different levels of the governance and the actual operational side of it, that I am really excited about our future and about where we're going, acknowledging we're never going to make everybody happy all the time. So I think I feel like we've got a really strong focus as a board and as an executive and the staff that work tirelessly around the state on ensuring that we've got the safest place we possibly can for our members, for our staff, and for our community, and that I really believe that that's at the heart of all the decisions that we're making at present.
Absolutely, and we quite often at board level have a lot of conversations around, as you said, diversity, which it obviously means that we get a greater membership base from and is representative of the community we seek to protect.
Absolutely.
You're also a member of the Women's Advisory Committee, which obviously comes direct through to Natalie and myself. And one of those little projects that you spearheaded whilst in that committee, which I'm going to give you 2 seconds to plug, is the Women in Firefighting Facebook page and CFA. Tell us about it, and where can our female firefighters find it?
Absolutely. So on Facebook, Women of CFA, we have a Facebook page, and I have to say that it was actually a recycle, or it was spurred on by knowing that we've got a FFMVic Women in Firefighting Facebook page as well. So it's been put together to support the women of CFA. It doesn't mean that it's isolating. It doesn't mean that it's segregating. It's a place where it's a really safe and positive place where there's amazing initiatives, amazing support, a really safe space to ask questions that you might otherwise feel a bit nervous to ask. And we've just hit over 1,000 CFA members, which I'm really, really excited and proud, because it hasn't actually been that live for that long. And it's just been such an amazing opportunity, not only to support each other, like I said before, but to actually get queries and get questions and raise issues and initiatives with the likes of our executive and our operational staff. So if you're a woman out there, CFA member, please hop on. It'll be very welcome space.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dawn. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know Acting Chief Officer Gary Cook is limbering up and getting ready to come to you live from a secret location, which Chris Stevenson unfortunately let the cat out of the bag a bit earlier. But they're getting ready to do a bit of a cross and finding out a little bit more about the State Control Centre. But in the meantime, our cadets have been very busy, and they've just recently attended the Cadet Camp, where they've gone through and done some amazing things, some team building, some leadership. Let's see what the cadets got up to and why it was such a great weekend.
Well, thanks, Chief. Joined now by Deputy Commissioner Chris Stevenson here in the State Control Centre. We're going to take a bit of a sneak around and look at some of the key cells that actually operate in the building. We won't get a chance to look at everything, but Chris, we're out on the open floor at the moment. Tell us a little bit about some of the activities that might be seen here on the open floor.
Yeah, Gary, well, right behind us we have our really valuable support staff here in the State Control Centre. As I said before, when you make a call, they'll make sure you're directed to the right part of the State Control Centre. But this main floor is where all of our agencies will come, all of our what we call our MLOs will come on a really busy day, but we also have some other functions on this floor, including mapping, intelligence, and one of our new initiatives is our room manager that we have here, plus our operational support staff. And if you ever have the luxury of working in this place, they'll help you out if you need to know something, how to log on, where to find things, what your role is, and how to effectively utilise the State Control Centre to the best of its ability. They'll help you out.
And Chris, there's a question earlier in the chat just a little bit about how quickly the place can activate in the time of emergency, but a little bit about getting ready for the emergency as well. So the room is running warm, I would call it, all the time. Tell us a little bit about the build-up for what we would consider a significant weather day.
Yeah, for sure, Gary. So we'll always be at monitoring, so we'll always have people in here. We get a heads up that maybe in 5 days' time we've got a spike day or a significant weather day coming, and we'll start to build the tiers of activation here in the centre. So we'll go from a monitoring to a tier 1, it'll bring some more resources in, and that's typically resources predominantly from EMV. However, once we get above that, that's when all of our really valuable surge staff and all our other agencies start to come in to the building. So we'll go to tier 2. That'll effectively mean we've got really good planning capability. We're making sure our aircraft are ready to go. We're making sure all of our agencies know what their role is over the next few days. And then when we get a big day, we'll go ultimately to Tier 3. And Gary, you're well aware, but this building can have in excess of 200 people on a really, really busy day.
Great, thanks, Chris. And one of the really critical things is about how we get messages to the community. We might just walk our way backwards in here into the cell that delivers that. So making our way into the information warnings, public information space here now. So a cell, we've got, in fact, we've got a few on the screen behind us, Chris, but just tell us a little bit.
Well, thanks Gary and Chris. Just a slight technical glitch there, so we might, whilst the team worked very hard to restore that, and certainly a fantastic effort made by Gary and Chris, and we'll just see if we can do to reset the link. Otherwise, we will continue on. In the meantime, carrying on in the training theme, we've got Beth Robinson from our training team spoke to some volunteers about who recently completed the Respond to Urban pilot in the southeast. It is important that we pilot some programs, and a big thanks to the VFBV for the work that they've done in ensuring that getting the program to where it is now. And we're looking to get the feedback from our members about the program and how it went and how it operated, in order to inform what changes can be made and how the training can be made better. So let's hear from Beth and some of our volunteers who have just recently participated in the Respond to Urban program.
Stuart Pontel-Scarlett's my name. Been in the CFA on and off since 1985, then came to officer in 2016. Just firefighter role at the moment, but recently elected to First Lieutenant, which will take over in July.
You just took part in the Respond to Urban course. Can you tell us more about the course?
So a lot of it was mainly around your urban structural firefighting, so your house fires, your building fires and that sort of stuff. Using correct firefighting techniques, search and rescue techniques, and just learning more about building materials, information about structures in general. It was pretty much starting from the basics, so anyone who's done your sort of general firefighting can go straight into that course because of the way they've tailored that for everyone.
What was your favourite part?
The internal search and rescue side of things, where we sort of got to do the real life fire attacks, where it was really smoky, you couldn't see anything, so it was sort of a real life scenario where we don't usually get to do that for normal training.
The practicals were the favourite, getting into the smoky house, I guess, or the house that's on fire. Yeah, that was quite good. A lot of theory in relation to it. Some of the theory, it was good to go back over, but it was covered off on the low structure course. But that was fine. It's a refresher in relation to that, because it's not stuff some of the courses you do it once and you know you use it, but you don't go into in depth. Then there was practical training down at Bangham Training Ground, which comprised 3 scenarios that they had, one of those being a car fire, another one being a shed fire, another one being a house fire, and then we just built up to it, just progressed up in the skills.
So what did you think about the length of the course? Was it too long or was it too short?
The way it ran was over 4 weeks of 3 nights, and we did that here at offices, and then there was 1 full weekend and 2 single day weekends as well, down at Bangham, doing the practical side of it. Now I've got a current job at Monday to Friday, so I found it a lot easier to fit in. I didn't think it was too impacting, though I could see how it could be to other people.
Do you feel the course met your needs to respond in an urban environment?
Yeah, definitely. So there was a lot of information covered across the whole course. Maybe a bit too much information, but other people might have needed that more than myself. For maybe newer members that are doing it compared to older members who have been in it a long time. It was definitely a lot of information that was well needed.
Do you feel you have more skills and confidence responding in an urban environment?
100%. So this course has definitely helped me boost my confidence a lot, especially with some of the older members. They've got an older mindset where, oh no, you don't do that, you don't do this. But now sort of the younger, newer members are starting to do these courses where there's a bit more information and research on different firefighting techniques, and we're able to bring that to our brigade and even teach them the newer techniques which will help in our firefighting in the real world.
Is there anything you don't feel confident about now that you've finished the course?
That's an interesting question. No, I'll be happy to tackle what I've learnt and put it into practice.
I don't think so. I don't know if that's just being on my high horse or whatnot, but yeah, it was pretty well done and taught, so I'm pretty confident.
Do you have any feedback for us or any recommendations for the course?
A lot of the low structure stuff was covered in it already, but I can see why it is at this stage, because low structure is not a prerequisite. Maybe low structure could be a prerequisite to go onto it, and then it could be streamlined more.
Was there anything that you found particularly challenging while doing the course?
I think the challenging thing was, I would suggest you get your fitness up before doing the course. It was very, very physical and hard, especially when you're not fit. Your muscles will hurt after it, so it would be worth sort of getting your fitness up a little bit before it.
So have you got any advice for anyone that's wanting to do the course?
Practice your skills at your brigade first. So when you're on the course, you're confident and not holding yourself back. Get those skills up at your brigade, so once you're on the course, you're ready to go.
Definitely put in for it. Be prepared for a lot of upskilling, but yeah, just be open to it and be prepared to talk up and give some of your experience as well.
And I think just the overall course I really enjoyed. Meeting new people as well, so made new friends from other brigades and stuff like that, which is really good.
Thank you, Beth, for taking the time to sit down with Stuart and Zoe to have a conversation about the Respond to Urban package and what it meant for two of our volunteers, the good, bad and the ugly in terms of what it meant for them and the training and how great it was, and even some of the things that they've identified already as to where we can improve. Well, as they say in the industry, never work with children or pets, but at the end of the day, it will be okay on the night. The team behind the desk have done a fantastic job, and we've got the roving reporter, Gary Cook, back online. So back over to you, Gary.
Thanks, Chief. Well, slight technological glitch, we would say there, but we're back, and thanks to the crew for getting that all sorted for us. So, Chris, we're back. We did go into the information warning cell, and that's where we sort of had a bit too much technology going on, but we did talk about the ability to generate a warning. How easy and how quickly can that occur?
Yeah, it is pretty easy for us these days, Gary. As I said, someone can call into our support. We'll switch them through. They'll talk them through what the requirements are, and we can put, whatever level of warning that is required to keep the community safe. We can do that from here. Obviously, it's quite often done from the incident level, but there are times when it's required. It's probably worth also noting that out of that little room there, during October last year, during the floods, there was over 400 warnings that went up on the board. So it's a very busy little spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're standing here now in front of the BOM, or the Bureau of Meteorology cell. Now, we know that Mother Nature will perhaps be one of the primary drivers for a lot of the big emergencies that we deal with, whether it be storm, flood, fire, and so on in the state. But how important is it to have really senior leadership from the Bureau of Meteorology in the cell?
Oh, extremely important, Gary. And on a busy day, or when we know we're getting a warm day or a very wet day coming, you'll see a lot of people come in and out of this cell. We'll have the Bureau in here. They provide a number of really key products during the day, products from briefings for us as senior levels, but products right back into the incident level as well. So a really important part of the whole match in here, if you like, and it's not far away from our intelligence teams and that as well. So they'll be liaising very carefully to make sure that everyone has the information they need to make good decisions.
Good job. Well, we'll just walk along here, Chris, because another really important piece of the State Control Centre is, in fact, the State Air Desk. We know how big a role aviation plays in supporting particularly not just fire operations. We saw a lot of aviation activated during flood operations, but just give us a little bit of a rundown in terms of what happens here in the state aviation area.
Yeah, this is another one of those areas, Gary, where people like to congregate because aviation is so important to our firefighting these days. Not only our firefighting, but our flood rescue and support. So we have 50 aircraft, obviously, in the state put on over the high-risk weather season, and they'll basically be coordinated from our state air desk here. So it's almost, if you imagine, it's a little bit like Esther. It's like the call comes in and it'll be dispatched from here. Once it's dispatched from here to the incident, obviously the aircraft becomes the property of the incident, if you like. And another good example might be our large air tankers. So on a request for a large air tanker, it'll come through the state air desk. We'll confirm that with the state response controller. And once it's confirmed that it's okay to be dispatched, it'll be dispatched from here. They also do some really critical safety functions by flight following when required, but also if there is an issue, this team behind us here, which is a multi-agency team, will be onto it and they'll make sure that it's managed well.
And Chris, the people that are in here, just like the Bureau and just like in information and warnings public information space, they're very experienced operatives that work in this space as well. So tell us a little bit about, you talk about the multi-agency team, but a little bit about the experience that sits behind that.
Oh, a huge amount of experience in here, Gary. A lot of the people that work in here have been on-ground firefighters and may still be on-ground firefighters. I know some of them are incident controllers. It's an absolutely incredible team. It's a very diverse team now, which I'm proud to say, which has changed. It never used to be, but it is now. Yeah, they do an amazing job. They're really, really passionate. People that have a passion for aircraft operate in this space with a great level of enthusiasm.
So maybe we just step in a little bit further, Chris, and just maybe get a bit of a shot. So there's obviously the important things, times, there's a radio consoles and all those things, and the running board behind us. How important is that information for us and I talk about a state response controller, but for anybody in the agencies to come in here and actually be able to, at a glance, know what's going on?
Yeah, it is important, but it's also important from a safety perspective. I think about this as a safety cell for aviation. So we know where all our assets are, we know when they're due to return, we know when they're due to call in, we know which incident they're at. But it's also important so the state response controller or other people that need the information can come in here and also make decisions about where we might need to reallocate aircraft based on new incidents that are popping up. So if you think about it from a safety perspective, that's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So a lot to see here in the State Control Centre, lots of different aspects. We've had a bit of a glimpse at it tonight. Thanks for your time and taking us through things here, Chris. So we'll be going back to you over there, Chief.
Thanks, Gary, and thanks, Chris, for taking us through the State Control Centre and some of the functional areas that we are. And thanks again to the team and Gary and Chris for working through that technical issue to again bringing this fantastic centre to our members. As I travel the state and I talk to our members, a lot of people haven't seen the inside of this facility or know of its existence. So it's been a pleasure this evening to be able to bring it to you. So at least you get a bit of a sneak peek about what's inside, how it operates, and how this centre contributes to the overall emergency management in the state of Victoria. David, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Deputy Commissioner with Fire Rescue Victoria. You look after the western parts of the state and also the northwestern part. So I guess the former career CFA stations, which are now through Fire Services Reform, have transferred to Fire Rescue Victoria. 38 years in the fire game. And I hear there's something special coming up for you very soon. It starts with R, the big retirement. Tell us a little bit about, I guess, your career and some of the things that have been highlights for you.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Yes, so 38 years. I started as a recruit for MFB back in 1985 and worked through station life, worked all the way up. Finally, with MFB, I was the last chief officer with MFB. And through the journey, I've played in many parts of the organisation, whether it be fire safety, training, but my focus has always been in operations. Probably on the trucks was the bread and butter for me early on. And sometimes after a busy day in the office, Jason, you'd probably be aware, sometimes you like to be back on those trucks. But look, some of the highlights for me, other than the people, for me, my career has always been about the people that I work with. And it's been a pleasure, not just within my agency, but the many agencies I've been connected with. But highlights for me early on in my career, I was doing the officers course when Coode Island first caught alight, and I spent quite a bit of time at Coode Island, and then through the journey I think of Black Saturday, and I was in strike teams and led strike teams during Black Saturday, and as I said at the end when MFB finished up and changed to Fire Rescue Victoria. I was the last chief and then went through as Deputy Commissioner. We're fortunate in FRV now to have Gavin Freeman as the Commissioner, who has a lot of experience around Australia, but certainly brings his background from CFA, which we cherish. For me, it's about the built environment. It's about that urban aspect that we provide some expertise. Also around certainly the specialist technical rescue type scenarios that we certainly as an organisation need to focus on. The issue that we need to work on is in the regional space. We partner well with CFA. We need to raise our brand, I suppose, from an FRV perspective. You know, many of the councils, local governments we speak to, they still don't know who FRV are. So we've got some work to do in that space. But the reality is we do have an expertise. We want to partner. We don't have the equipment to cover off every discipline in our space, so we're reliant on CFA, tankers, strike teams, etc. Certainly we're reliant on FFMVic in their patch to provide their equipment, their expertise. And certainly from my perspective, it'll be a sad day on Friday when I finish, when I look at the many relationships that I've formed, the learning that I have and the respect that I've got for not only the people that work in the State Control Centre, but when I look out to the groups that are on this telecast tonight, the work that you do is exceptional, and really from a management perspective, we're all about supporting you in the field, and we need to continue to do that. You know, FRV has looked at what our strategic plan will be for the next 10 years. We're in the throes of rolling it out. The first 3 years, I think, to be realistic, has been tough for all of us. FRV suffered the cyber attack. It threw all our systems out of whack, and we've been playing a bit of catch up. But I think we've got a bright future, not only for FRV, but for the broader collective. And I'd just like to wish you all the very best in the future.
Thank you, Dave. Certainly, as I said, 38-year career in the fire services here in Victoria. You're a recipient of the Australian Fire Service Medal yourself. Such a distinguished career here. Tell us more about, for those that don't know, obviously with new fire services reform was about taking the career firefighters out of CFA and creating this new entity known as Fire Rescue Victoria with the then Metropolitan Fire Brigade. How many stations do you have around Victoria?
So we've got 85 fire stations, and they were 38 of the former CFA stations. Most are co-located and integrated stations. So we continue to work harmoniously. We do have our hiccups along the way, and I certainly, from my perspective within FRV, asked our people to focus on relationships. Most of them work really harmoniously, and we want to continue to foster that, because at the end of the day, we're all here for community. That's what it's all about.
And I think that's one of the messages that I know as senior leaders in the emergency management space, but also between CFA and FRV, is we want our people to be interoperable. We want our people to get along. We want them to train together. We want them to exercise together, and we want them to excel in serving their communities together side by side. Because here's the reality. CFA needs FRV and FRV needs CFA, and we all need Forest Fire Management Victoria and all the agencies to come together. No one agency can do it on its own. So certainly that's the reason why we do have the mantra, we do work as one. And certainly I do enjoy seeing as I go through Facebook, for example, seeing that fire rescue stations with CFA stations, whether it be that show and tell, bring the truck up, let's have a look through, and even to the point where I've seen some stations doing joint training and exercising. So I think it's fantastic and to be strongly encouraged. So. Yep. And Dave, a question from you, or probably more a comment, and we have a long-time listener, probably not first-time caller, to be perfectly honest. You know who you are. Letting you know, congratulations on a long and distinguished career, and the membership form to your local CFA brigade is ready for when you want to take it up.
Okay, I'll remember that. Thank you.
So look, congratulations.
Thank you.
And certainly on behalf of CFA, we wish you well in your retirement, and thank you very much for your long and distinguished career in the fire services here in Victoria.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Well, we're going to try to come to, I guess, the jewel of tonight's session. We think we've ironed out the technical bugs, but as you never know when it comes to these sort of things. We're about to cross live to Nicki Lund, who's on deployment in Canada. Nicki, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Jason.
Excellent. It's all working. That's fantastic. So in Canada, as we speak, 4:13 a.m. in the morning. Thank you very much for, I hope you've gotten out of bed early and you're not awake from the previous day. But look, congratulations for putting your hand up and going over there. Tell us what it's like.
It's different over here. The weather is very different compared to home, obviously. I expected it to be very hot. It's not. It's yesterday, yesterday was 30 degrees, but it has been cold. It has been very windy. It has been muggy. It has been, like Melbourne, I've had all different sort of seasons in one day. But it's been great. It's a great experience, and I'm so pleased that I was given the opportunity and able to be over here and have the learnings that I'm getting from here and being able to bring them home. So absolutely,
and I know, Judy, obviously when you're into international and you're working for other countries and jurisdictions, there's restrictions to what you can and can't do. And I know you are restricted from speaking about specific fires, so I won't go there with you. Yep. However, tell us about the role that you are performing for the firefighting effort.
So I was contacted by the state capability team and asked if I would like to come over here and perform the logistics role, which of course I jumped at the opportunity to have that chance. So initially I was deployed to an area in Edmonton, which is the capital of Alberta, in the Rainbow Lake area. So that's about 700 kilometres north of Edmonton. So I started there in the logistics team. Within 3 to 4 days, Keg River, a fire up here, was about 1,000 hectares at the time. We are now 29,000 hectares, so that's obviously grown immensely. And I was redeployed here to set up basically the whole camp as logistics. So it started off with a small local team that was fighting the fire here, and now the base camp is, as of tomorrow, will be 200 people. So I've set that up from scratch, and yeah, it's growing as we speak.
Well done, Nicki. And certainly that's probably one of the unique things of firefighting in the Northern Hemisphere, unlike the incident management teams that we see here in Australia that are generally run from purpose-built ICCs. In the Northern Hemisphere, it's not unusual for these large wildfires to be run from base camps where the incident management team is operating out of the camp where they actually eat and sleep at the same time. So you're also being deployed with a number of international and other countries as well. Tell us, give us a bit of an idea of who you've bumped into.
So initially when I was deployed, I came across, was deployed with a CFA lady. So she's not actually on my deployment. She was sent to Edson. But obviously with Forest Fire Management Victoria, I was a project firefighter many years ago and ran into quite a few of the people that I'd worked with. In the IMT, I obviously worked with them on many deployments and that as well, so they were over here already. They're the ones that left yesterday. They've finished their deployment and they're heading home, and now I'm working with American IMTs. So the opportunity and the fire services that I'm working with, it is such a great opportunity and learnings that you're getting out of this that I can bring home. Some of the processes and procedures are different, and taking that opportunity and the different processes and procedures. Not everything works so smoothly at the beginning, but you're flexible and adaptable, and you just take them on board, and everyone works well together, and you just continue on, and the outcome's all the same, what you're working towards. So yeah, it's really good.
And that's one of the beauties of, I guess, the Australian country and the Northern Hemisphere is we've got AIMS, they've got NIMS. There is that degree of interoperability, isn't it?
Absolutely. Bless you.
Sorry, thank you.
It is. The interoperability, everyone's working towards the same goals, obviously. It's just a few tweaks here and there as to the procedures. So normally in logistics, I'm the one that's finding and sourcing things. Over here, it's just I have to go through another level of procedure.
So tell me, Nicki. Obviously, I went to the Northern Hemisphere a couple of years ago with Matt Potter when he was with Forest Fire Management Victoria, and we did, I guess, some safety assessments and things about putting together the induction program when you get into country. So tell me about the bears. Did you do the bear training?
Oh, absolutely. At the beginning, I thought it was a joke, and people were talking to me about the bear spray and all of those sorts of things, but it is not a joke. So when we've had a lot of briefings along the way, and in those briefings, we've had wildlife talks and how we're to handle if we come across a bear, all of those sorts of things. But it's not just bears. So there's moose, there's lynx, there's wolverines, there's deer. Obviously we have deer at home, but there's all of these other sort of wildlife that we can come across, and we have come across them. So I've actually seen a mother bear and her 3 cubs, which has been an experience in itself. So it's fantastic. I've seen a woodchuck, so I've fed it a carrot. So those sort of experiences I'll hold dear to my heart and bring home. I haven't actually seen a moose or a bison, but there are other members on the deployment that have. So the wildlife over here is incredible.
Well, thanks,
but
Nicki.
yeah, we've had the briefings.
Yeah, look, and I've got to say, sorry, you opened the door, but I've got to ask, how much wood can a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck would chuck wood?
Yeah. I did open the door, didn't I?
You did, yeah. Look, congratulations and thank you. And you're part of, as I said, a team of CFA staff that have been deployed, the PTA staff that have incident management team qualifications and training that have been deployed alongside Forest Fire Management Victoria personnel, state emergency service personnel and other fire agencies from right across Australia over in the Northern Hemisphere, helping out our brothers and sisters up there, because they've come down to Australia a number of times. We've gone up there, and certainly as the banner down below saw 112 deployed from Victoria into Canada is certainly the largest group from this state that have been deployed internationally, but certainly across Australia. I think we had a Commissioners and Chief Officers hook up the other day, Gary, where I think there's some 450 personnel from right across Australia being deployed to Canada to assist, and they're from all over the place. I think Nicki, I saw that with South African firefighters, from people from Mexico, France. It's really been a global effort. So without specifics, as you said, but tell us a bit about, I guess, some of the fire behaviour that you potentially and possibly have seen. I know one of the things that I've spoken to people that have been deployed previously is you get there, everything looks very calm, very quiet for half of the day, and you sort of got to wonder what's happening on here. But then something happens around that 2 o'clock mark in the afternoon. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so they have what's called crossover here. So it's when the relative humidity is lower than the actual temperature. And when that happens, the fire behaviour changes. And it doesn't have to be, for us in a normal extreme fire danger rating day, you would expect that to be a very high temperature day or something along those lines. It's nothing like that. It can be a 23-degree day. And the relative humidity will be 15. So it is the weather behaviour here is completely different, and it's very wet underfoot here. So it's very green here. And we've got crowning fires, and it's not what you would expect. So talking to the firefighters on the ground, obviously I'm not on the firefighting, but the learnings that I'm getting from listening to the firefighters when they return back to camp is amazing. It's a very wet underfoot, and there's a lot of beaver dams and rivers and that they're drafting from and using. They run kilometres of hose over here, so there's definitely no dry firefighting that we're used to at home. So it's completely different.
Well, thank you, Nicki, for a bit of an update there. There's a lot of people that are shouting out to you in the chat here tonight saying, well done, go Nicki. And some people also from Canada, by the looks of it, that are sharing some feelings of homesickness, hearing about some of the experiences that you are having in the Northern Hemisphere. So I'm going to let you go, Nicki. I'm sure get some rest before you come on shift today. So thank you very much for making yourself available. Thank you very much to everyone who was deployed in Canada from the CFA, and certainly stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you upon your return.
Thank you, Chief. Good night, everybody.
Well, we've just heard from Nicki, obviously deployed into Canada. Chris, Forest Fire Management Victoria, you've got quite a lot of your people over there at the moment, don't you?
We do. We've got just over 100, mainly arduous firefighters, which is the first time, but also we have incident management team and specialist personnel such as plant operations managers, and we've also sent a number of divisional commanders, Jason, that are working with with the Chileans, and it's been really fascinating, and some it's great to see Nicki. I've been to the airport to see Olaf. We've got our first cohort coming home on Friday from Alberta, and I'm really proud of the work that the whole Victorian and the Australian contingent has done over there. And the feedback I'm receiving from colleagues in Canada is that the way that the Victorians have carried themselves has been exemplary. And all of us should be rightly proud of their commitment, their contribution, and also the families of those people that have been deployed, because they've been away they will be away for 40 days. They will work really hard. This is not a holiday. And the families that stay behind and support our CFA folks and our FFMVic folks that have gone over this time, thank you so much, because without you it wouldn't be possible. And it's a massive sacrifice to allow those people to go while you stay at home and caring for all of the accountability responsibilities there. But I couldn't be prouder. I'm thrilled that we're able to support our Canadian colleagues as they supported us over many years.
So Gary, a lot of because as we know, the first call out for the deployment came in whilst I was on leave. So talk me through from a CFA perspective, what goes into some of the planning to try and find people that are able to go, because it's not a short commitment, as we heard Chris say. It's it's probably 40 days in total. Talk us through how it all happens.
Yeah, thanks, and great to see Nicki there. That's terrific. So we've got 8 people over there. Some coming home soon, which is great. But there is a registration process in advance. So this is not something where you put the call out and just work out who might put their hand up to go. There is I call it a pre-registration process. So we actually know who may be in a position for us at least to go and target. The second bit is the request comes into Australia. The request gets divvied up around the states, and then we look at it from a CFA perspective in terms of which skills we might have based on the people that have registered to be available to go. So there's quite an advanced process, and then there's a whole heap of work that then goes in to get people from actually the notification that yes you're going to getting them on the plane. So there's the visas, all of the making sure that we've got the people appropriately registered, even through to our insurers and all of those things that go on behind the scenes. So there is a lot that goes on to support our people when we go on these international deployments. The flip side of it is that the Canadians come here and help us. And, like we do in CFA, where we help our friends out next door, next state, the Canadians come to our aid in 2019-20 in large numbers, and it's great that we're able to reciprocate on this occasion and pay back some of that, wonderful in-kind that came to us back in when we were really at our worst sort of days.
Absolutely. And certainly a couple of things I just wanted, to touch on from that, Gary, is I know there's been a lot of talk about volunteers deploying internationally, and we are seeing people from volunteer brigades in other states and territory being deployed internationally. For our volunteers, be rest assured we are working through and looking at how we will be able to deploy people from our volunteer ranks who aren't PTA staff members to be able to deploy internationally. There are a number of international rules and agreements to which we need to work through as a result of that. And I'm working with AFAC and the Australian government to work out how we can do that effectively to ensure that all people in Victoria in the firefighting sense, particularly our volunteers who have incident management team qualifications, have the opportunity to deploy internationally in order to assist their fellow brothers and sisters on the other side of the globe. So I know that's been a bit of a hot topic, and certainly one that I can't let go this evening without addressing. So we'll keep working that through. We'll keep updating our members on how we're progressing with that, but certainly investigations are taking place by our teams as we speak. Well, it's been a pretty jam-packed agenda tonight, everyone. What are your thoughts on things so far?
Well, for me, Jason told me that we have this, or Victoria has this volunteer forum. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. What a great way to reach out and connect with people that support our communities. I cannot tell you how deeply grateful I am for Victoria's CFA and what it means. It's part of the fabric of our community, and I just wanted to be here today and have the opportunity to thank all of you. What you do is extraordinary. Thank you.
No, thank you, Chris, and certainly I'd like to thank Gary, Acting Chief. You've been doing it for a bit of time now, obviously when I was on leave, and now I'm Acting CEO. So thank you to you for stepping in and doing what you do. It's certainly been a great help, and I know a lot of people across the state admire and respect you, and it's fantastic that you've been able to continue on with gusto. Dave, thank you again for coming on this evening. All the best in your retirement. We wish you well, and as I said, the offer's there of membership. There's been a few people that are buying for your experience in their local brigade. So thank you, and thank you for coming on this evening. Dawn, yet again, always lovely to have you on the panel. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Congratulations again on your AFSM. It's great to see, and I hope that through your advocacy we can see 2,000 plus female members on our females
Absolutely.
Facebook page. So
I look forward to celebrating that.
absolutely, thank you. And Chris, thank you for coming on and talking things Forest Fire Management Victoria and issues that are affecting your agency, and it's fantastic to see. So thank you. A big shout out and thank you to EMB and Chris. Thank you for coming on the panel this evening and allowing us to come into the State Control Centre to rearrange the furniture and take over for a little while whilst we're able to bring the Volunteer Forum to you here tonight, and including all the on-shift staff here in the SCC. It's been great to have you part of the team this evening. Thank you to Nicki for taking the time to join us very early in the morning in Canada and being able to share her experiences of what it's been like in Canada. And thanks to the training team for taking time out to speak to a couple of volunteers about their experiences on the Respond to Urban program, but also to give that important training update to some of the fantastic work that our training teams have been up to. Well, as always, I'd like to thank those behind the desk. So big shout out to Beth, Mitch, Martin and Brad, our executive producer, and Sally Pickering for coming together tonight to be able to bring it to you. The team do a fantastic job, and I've got to tell you, whether it be the technical glitch or whatever it is, they absolutely work frantically to make it happen, to make sure that this production goes to our members as seamlessly and as professional as possible. So big thank you to the team. As usual, tonight's recording will be available on YouTube or on Members Online. So if you did want to go back and listen to more information or catch up on bits that you may have missed, you can do that following tonight's forum. Feedback is always welcome, and we always want to know what our members would like to see on future forums, or in fact where in the state we'd like to hold future forums. So if you do have feedback, please feel free to send that to internalcomms@cfa.vic.gov.au. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you a great evening. At the July Volunteer Forum will be held on the 25th, so please put that placeholder in to a venue coming close near you. And I look forward to everyone again seeing you next month.